Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're doing Gustav. This is basically a healer guide, but it's kind of a support guide. Gustav's got this quirky little thing going on where he's not quite a full healer, not quite a full support, and we'll get into the details of that. If you like this kind of content, to encourage it, the best way is to leave a tip and or some feedback. The tip is the heart symbol right below the screen and above the comments. And without any more ado, Gustav, the Bard, the Frog. I'm probably going to sing Piano Man several times during this. Well, I'm going to try to limit that. But the reason I say that is because this is the passive here says you start with stanza 1. And without digging too deep into stanza is very hard and annoying to get consistently if you don't have the perk that starts with it or this talent, this passive. So Gustav is really good at playing song cards because you're guaranteed to have that stanza at the beginning of the fight. So you can plan out your turns accordingly. Like, yes, I'll have stanza 1 on this turn, stanza 2 this turn, and you can, like I said, plan accordingly. There are some... This left side's got a lot of things that are related to some damage version of Gustav. We're not going to talk into that. Also, it's not really that viable to begin with. We're going to be going down mostly the right side here. We'll talk about it, but Melodic Rhythm. This is probably the strongest healing card in the game right now, at least on Higher Madness where you have Decadence enabled, because this says, yes, we have plus regen charges, and whenever we play a song, we add regen to the team, but more importantly, for the next 4 songs, all heroes recover 7% of their hit points, which, by the way, adds up pretty quick. Yes, that's only 30% total, and 28%, but because of the whole Decadence, it's not affected by Decadence. It's not considered a heal, so it's not reduced, and it's not in any way affected by that corruptor. So this is a pretty solid and stable way to heal the team once you get to level 2, which is only halfway through Act 1. So yes, the first couple of fights you're not going to have it, and we will try to play around that accordingly. But later in the game, we're going to really rely on this being a solid heal card to get us through the first couple of turns of the fight, and then in the later turns of the fight, we'll have other healing options. This also stacks up massive amounts of regen, so yes, please. Assuming we play multiple songs in a turn. So on the turn we play this, we want to be casting several songs. Next up, we have Fanfare or Shrill Tones. Fanfare is the song side, right? We don't care about it. Yes, it refunds energy, and yes, it grants regen, but for the purposes of this guide, we're going to be talking about the Gustav support that is also applying Sharp to his teammates. So this +1 Sharp charge is by far and away the better card if you are at all playing with Sharp. And I guess we'll just talk about it now. The caveat, if you're not playing Gustav to support a physical damage team, you'll be cutting some of the cards we talk about, and you'll be going Fanfare instead of Shrill Tone. I'm not going to dig too much into it. It should be pretty self-explanatory. Just cut anything that has Sharp if you don't have a teammate that has Sharp related, including this talent. So I'm going to recommend this talent because Gustav's so good at applying Sharp to his teammates. But if you're skipping that, you can go Fanfare and you'll have a lot of extra energy and regen. But for me, I say Rhythm, Shrill Tones, and next we're going to go Encore. Encore says, hey, play a spell, get a second one free. So buy one, get one free is always good. This card does replace itself with the new song. The better the song you play right after this, the more powerful this is. You can also, at the end of your turn, play this and then not play anything, follow up it to save it for the next turn, which is what a very common play pattern with this card. But it's also just very versatile. If you have a specific song, like card that you want 2 of, you don't have to carry 2 copies of it around. You can just rely on Encore once you hit level 4. And level 4 is reliably, end of Act 3, so this is an Act 4 and on card. But it's very versatile, and that's when we're going to have a lot of our powerful songs in our deck to copy. And level 5, wide sleeves, we're not doing small weapons. Choir says, hey, whole team gets stanza, and you can never lose stanza 3. This is important if the fights go past round 3, because you don't want Gustav to lose to recycle stanza and go back to the beginning again, which is usually how it works. So if fights are going beyond 3 turns, this is great, and end of the game, we're going to be fighting Archon, so this will help out in that. Also, just the other talent has nothing to do with our play pattern. And also, one side effect of giving your whole team stanza 1 is that once they get stanza 2, they'll also get an Inspire to draw an extra card on round 3. So lots of little weird things. I highly recommend you look into Stanza, go into the Tome of Knowledge, read Stanza 1, 2, and 3, kind of get familiar with it. It's not going to affect our play pattern too much. Mainly just Stanza 1, Stanza 2, like some cards we can't play on the first turn. Because we'll try to plan on everything being playable on turn 3. But this is just generically useful and no downside to it. And Wide Sleeves just isn't part of our play pattern. So, Gustav is the bard. He sings us songs. Possibly not a piano man. With that, I didn't pull up the starting deck, unfortunate. Normally I talk about that. With this, I've added a plethora of stuff here. I don't expect you to craft all of these cards every time. I'm just showing some options. Usually what you'll do is you'll cut all of the 2 cost and 1 cost damage songs first and fill in with... you'll cut the damage songs first, and then you'll start working your way through. I think it's the shivs next. I think there's something else I cut. I apologize. I try to have that prepared here. But you'll end up with a couple shivs left over maybe if you can't craft all these cards for shards reasons. Remember, I am doing this on Madness 12, spending a little extra on shards than the higher Madness is available to, but you can adjust accordingly. I don't want to show you, like, if you have extra shards, I want to show you all the places to spend it. And if you don't have enough, you'll keep a couple of the shivs because they're 0 cost attacks, and you'll just skip out on some of these bottom ones here that I'll tell you about. But play pattern for Gustav is, since he is a super fast hero, we're going to be going before the rest of our team, and we want to set up the rest of our team for success. There's not going to be anyone to heal, so we don't need to cast any healing spells turn 1. But what we want to do is help our team go ahead of the enemy, so they have their first turn before the enemy team, and give them some buffs. Gustav starts with 2 chance of accuracy, and we craft a 3rd one. So Gustav is really good at supporting a physical damage DPS. And so the reason we go between the 0 cost and 1 costs, all the 0 costs vanish, the 1 costs do not. The default one's okay, but we want to save some energy. The reason we go to this 1 cost yellow is because it doesn't vanish. And for the first act, it gives us a chance to have another copy of Chant of Accuracy via Scavenge. And later we'll eventually cut Scavenge and move this back to a 0 cost. But in the meantime, this being here gives us more options for Scavenge, which is basically a universally playable card with because it can be either a deflect or a... Because Scavenge says, return a card from your discard pile, and we want the one that costs 0, and it puts it to our hand, because we don't want to lose cards, we don't want to lose energy, which is what the other options can do. So, bring a card back and use it again, which means we can either play a Chant Accuracy again, a Deflect again, which says, dig a little deeper, that kind of thing. We'll eventually cut Scavenge, and we'll eventually move the Chant back to 0, but for now, it just adds so many more options, and that's really the name of Gustav's options. I mentioned he goes fastest most of the time. In that case, we want to speed up our other teammates and manipulate their turn order. He starts with a Song of Quickness, which could just be a default, hey, everyone go faster, which is nice. But sometimes you have a slower teammate that you want to go in front of your damage dealer, like in the case of this team. Heiner's super slow, but I want Heiner to go before Andrin, but I want my whole team to go before the enemy. So to accomplish that, I got to speed up the robot. And there's a couple options I can do that. I can either go a Chant of Initiative 0 cost or a Chant of Initiative 1 cost. Go figure. You don't want the non-vanishing one. You want one of the 2 vanishing. And the difference here is the 0 cost one adds 1 less fast. So if you can get away with it, this is the better one to run. But sometimes you just need a little extra speed because robots are slow or some such. In which case, this white one will do you better. And have that additional speed. We'll also be adding some perks to help out this speed manipulation. But depending on your team comp, you're going to be running either a Chant of Initiative or 2 or a Song of Quickness. And we're going to try to guarantee that we see our entire deck on turn 1 so that we can make sure that we have all the cards we need to. And we play them out in the right order, because some of these cards, most of the cards we're only going to have 1 copy of, and we want to play them. We're not going to want to play them all, but we want to have access to all of them. And to accomplish that, we use Setup. Setup and Trace, specifically. Setup says, hey, draw 3, put 2 back. And Trace says, hey, look at your top 6 and discard them. Of the Trace, I do recommend upgrading it to blue so it digs deeper. Instead of 4 cards, it goes 6. It is only self, but that's who we only really care about it on. Eventually, if you're going to keep this in your deck for the Archon, we're going to switch it to yellow. But for a majority of the game, a blue trace will stay in your deck just because of the play pattern of Gustav, where eventually we're going to have these super powerful songs that we can't play on turn 1 because they require stanza 2. So we have to put those cards back on top of our deck. And to do that, we want to trace our deck. And I'll show you an example of this here shortly. After I go to talk about perks. We'll look at the top of our deck. We'll discard the stuff we don't want. Then we'll draw a couple cards with Vigilance. Those are going to be guaranteed in our hand too. If you notice, Trace was innate, so it starts in our hand. And these 2 Vigilances will also start in our hand. So we'll be guaranteed to be able to look at the top of our deck and draw at least 2 cards deep. And hopefully that gets us to the setup. And we can basically almost guarantee getting to the setup with that combination. And that setup will allow us to draw the rest of the deck that we haven't gotten to and put back the cards we're not using for that turn or we're saving for the next turn. So really what makes the Gustav deck hum, in my opinion, is this Trace, Double Vigilance setup. Eventually, if your deck is efficient enough, you can ditch the Trace, but I've had many a game where I'll keep it through the entire game and not be worried, especially if I get a Corrupted one, because the Corrupted one vanishes, and I only need this Trace for turn 1, but I've gone to the Archon fight with a Trace in my deck and been perfectly happy with it because it will just smooth out our turn 1 play pattern, which is what Gustav really struggles with as a bard. Just the bard mechanic in general, stanza, really struggles with efficient turn 1, turn 2 plays. So what do we cover here? So chance of accuracy, upgraded them. Initiatives for speed. Deflect, you're going to craft this just to make our deck more efficient and to help with this whole trace and draw pattern. Deflects and setup will do that. And so the only cards we're really playing are these initiatives that can speed up our team, Song of Quickness speeds up our team, Captivating Voice, which slows down the enemy. I normally don't end up running the Captivating Voice because my team's super fast, but depending on your team comp, it's perfectly reliable to use this instead of the Chant of Initiative to help manipulate make sure your team goes before the enemy. We cut one of the Sweet Melodies because you're never going to want to play 2 in a turn, really, and our deck is going to be super efficient enough that we'll always have option to play the Sweet Melody. And this is our Dispel of choice because it's a song. And then, of course, I've added the Vitalizing Serenade. This is what will keep us healthy until we get that talent card. Because remember, Vitality heals when it applies to Vitality. With Decadence on, it only heals for half, rounded down in a quirky way. So you're not going to get much healing out of it in the Decadence, but it is efficient and it's consistent, and you can rely on getting it on turn 1 if you really need it. And yeah, where are we at? Talked about all that stuff. I feel like there's something else fast. I think we talked about all the fast cards. Song of Celerity is okay because it's cheaper, but since we start with the Song of Quickness, I see no reason to craft the Celerity. Maybe if I got one from a Divination, I might play it instead of the Quickness, but that is to your heart's content. Just the fact that we start with the Quickness and this Quickness does dispel slow, that comes up as usable fairly often. Maybe not. Anyway, we start with the one. If you get the other, that's okay. And I don't think there's anything else here. We talked about the slows. Let's go to perks, and then I'll do a combat showing you the play pattern for Gustav in Act 1. Perks. So Gustav is going to be, you want him to be you're basically the first person to take their turn. So speed. You also want to be speeding up your team so fast. You've noticed I don't have the slow perk here because most of the slow cards are efficient enough without the perk. And of the two, fast comes up more often than slow as an efficient play pattern. So it's probably not worth the points. If you feel the need, don't be afraid to pick this up. That is an option. The default energy and extra change here. These 4 columns are fit to your heart's content. We don't really run any buffer until the super late game, and when we run buffer, it's usually already 2 stacks, so going from 2 to 3 stacks isn't that important, but this is an okay pickup. If your team is running, if you're running a Sylvie team, you'll pick up the Sight because you're going to be playing the Vigilance. So you can pick up this one for sure because it only costs 1, and those Vigilances you play will have a little extra Sight to the team. Probably should have included that on the default one here. Biggest important thing here is sharp. And whoever is going to use the sharp is going to pick up their choice of slashing or piercing, and then you're going to be the one picking up on Gustav. The sharp does not decay, and sharp cannot be purged unless specifically targeted. This helps keep all that sharp you throw on your teammate there for most fights. There's only a couple Act 4 fights, not farts, where you'll lose the sharp. So your DPS will pick up this one, you'll pick up that one, and yeah. Depending on your team comp, you may need to be picking up a vulnerable perk. Usually the Gustav teams will include both this right and middle vulnerable talent or perk, because they're going a physical build, so slashing or piercing, which is you're going to be picking up this vulnerable. Then of course we're picking up the Inspire because everyone wants that. We don't need the Powerful, we don't add that. And then here you can see I didn't actually go all the way down in the healing tree, and that's because, or the healing icicle, because most of your healing is going to be done through Vitality or that level 2 talent card that I told you about, or Regen. So of those three, none of those are healing. So the only time you're healing is when you're dispelling with the the Sweet Melody. See, this is of all my cards here that I'm starting with, only one says heal on it. So I only picked up the first two because they're cheap and easy to pick up, and for the most part you're not going to get much benefit out of this icicle here, these set of perks. So instead, pick up the Regen, because you're going to use that the entire game, and the Vitality, because you'll use that the entire game. I could be convinced to run either the Vitality increases Mind Resistance or the Regen increases Shadow Resistance, since you will be applying both of those fairly early and often. I normally don't run them myself, but they are a viable option. And then in Act 3 and Act 4, you will have a card that has Bless on it. So this is an easy pickup for just 1 point to increase the value of Bless, because just in general, this perk is well worth it. If you ever play one card that has Bless with it the entire game, it's usually safe to just pick up this 1 point spot. That's enough with perks. Let's get into the fight. So, in this fight, it is an Andrin team. Andrin may or may not kill them on the first turn. I don't remember. I'm not going to talk too much about these other guys here, but they will just do their usual supporting things for a DPS. I mean, a physical team. So here's the play pattern. I have these two draws and this trace. These will always be in my starting hand. I have one extra card here because Bree did an Inspire. You can't really rely on having this many in your hand. So I will trace myself first. Either target it. If it targeted, it's yourself, or otherwise this one just always does yourself. And then I have to compare how many draws I have in my hand, because I might have a deflect or a setup here. How many draws I have with what cards I need. Speed-wise, I need Heiner to go faster. So I need one of my chance of initiative. Other than that, I want as much sharp as possible to give to Andrin. So I need this chant of initiative. I have 2 draws. 1, 2 draws. So I have to ditch at least 2 of these cards. So 1, 2 draws gets me here. And this is 6 deep. And you might be like, once you get used, it'll go faster once you get used to it, but I'm just showing you. So I know what the other 2 cards are because of what's not showing. I know the other chant of initiative is in there. I need to slow down. And the setup is there. So digging deeper than what's showing is not going to help me, because it's just a chant of initiative and a setup. All my chants of accuracy are showing in this part right here. So it's unfortunate that I have to ditch these accuracies. This is probably one of the worst traces you can get, is the setups on the bottom of the deck and all your chance of accuracies are on the top of the deck. Because ideally you actually want to get to the setup and then filter your hand, because all these cards are basically worthless to me right now. And you'll have a more fine-tuned deck than what I have here, because I just went with the generalized one, and some of these aren't useful in this team comp, because like I said, you'll pick and choose which of these you're using. Like, I don't need the Captivating Voice, and I don't need the Song of Quickness per se. So anyway, so chant of initiative on the robot, make him go faster. So this is the turn order I want. All the enemies are going slower. Sharp on my DPS, and I have my choice of spells here. I can either speed up the team more. I'm telling you this because that's a trap. If I do this, then suddenly Andrin will be going faster than the robot again, so I do not want that. There's nothing to dispel. There's no one I need to slow. I could do a chunk of damage, or I can just give my team Vitality to set them up for success. And then I'll just play through this turn real fast, and Andrin's, and actually, I don't know if there's really much to... I don't think there's going to be another Gustav turn. If we play another Gustav turn, it'll just be more healing serenades and maybe some sweet melodies to keep the team healthy, and or to play these Chant of Accuracies when they actually come up and I can play them. Like I said, that was a fairly rough start for the Frog Bard, but I wanted to show you a not ideal version. This. Don't mind me. Maybe I should skip this play pattern part, but we'll see if Gustav has another turn. So you see, if I had a little more sharp, if I'd been able to play 2 of these Chants of Accuracy instead of just 1, Andrin would have been able to finish off the whole team. As it is, they're basically dead. The team's super healthy. If I'd taken more damage, the Vitality would be the thing I use to keep the team up. And also, a lot of the survival on this team is based on the fact that Gustav is going super fast and is speeding up people like Heiner. So they can apply this block before the enemy takes their turn. So whoever your frontliner is, or whoever's applying block, Gustav is there to make sure that they go first, and then that block is effective and your team just doesn't take any damage, so it doesn't have to heal. Alright, enough about that. If you have questions, please let me know. I kind of belabored that one a little bit because it's a little tricky to talk about. We will show one more combat once we get to Act 4 here. So Act 2, I've added the melodic rhythm and the tune-up, and you can see I only have 1 Chant of Initiative, and I have the 0 cost because it's suiting my purposes. Heiner is fast enough. Whoops. Heiner is fast enough right now. So I've trimmed down the speed manipulation to exactly what I want. I've added the tune-up so that I can help filter out and get the correct cards on the turn that I need them. The way tune-up works, I recommend the blue one, is I can find a song and put it into my hand. There's also the version that finds a song and puts it on top of your deck, but with our setup and trace combination, that doesn't really... excuse me, doesn't do us any good. So I recommend the blue one. It costs a little extra energy, but our first turn, we're not spending much energy because there's not really much use for us to cast these expensive songs until we've taken some sort of damage. Of them, you know, it's only the quickness or the serenade that I'm going to be playing on turn 1 most of the time. No need to be dispelling stuff if you don't have anything to dispel. And the play pattern is still the same, just trace, trace, double draw, and setup. Where is... Oh, I'm sorry. This, I don't know why... This is a bad save. This is supposed to have... I knew there was something wrong with this when I was doing the thing. In that case, I probably would be cutting either the Adrenaline, the Scavenge. I think the Scavenge. We'll replace that soon enough. We still want the Trace and the setup. Maybe the Tune-Up. Yeah, so we're good enough here. Forget the Tune-Up. Tune-Up's kind of a placeholder until your deck is thin enough. So this, with the Trace Double Vigilance, I should be able to get to the setup and get everything according to plan. Items. Items is where we're at. That's not items. This is items. So of the items, we are the speed and we are the heal. Which one do we want to talk about first? We want to talk about fast. So if you want to go first, you're going to be looking for things like Cloak of Speed, Slippers, Forest Crown. Forest Crown is guaranteed if you go to the Elder Dryad. It no longer drops from the tree, as far as I can tell. It used to be that case. You may have heard that in my other videos. Right now it is just the Elder Dryad in the bottom of Act 1. So you can get this pretty early and guarantee it and just put on Gustav and be happy with it for the rest of the game. Or you can hope for the Slippers. I really enjoy the Slippers. This means, hey, I go first, Gustav, every time. And then Cloak of Speed is your late game option for getting that fast at beginning of combat. Otherwise, you can also just get some baseline speed increases like the Steadfast Boots, the Amulets of Speed, and there's a bunch of armors that do it. So speed. like it's the Boots of Swiftness, the Brigand Armor. Those are the kind of things you want to be picking up on Gustav just to get him insured the first person, because that play pattern really relies on going first. Otherwise, I'm missing something here. We want Sharp. We are a... These corrupted weapons give us plus Sharp charges. And since we start with 2 chance of accuracy and we add a third one to the deck, and we sometimes copy for a fourth one, it's really nice to have this plus Sharp charges. You can get it on these corrupted weapons or on this brass amulet. Those are very fantastic use of your time. Competes with the Forest Crown, but keep an eye open for those. I'm forgetting something here. What is it? So, let me go look at Gustav. We want Sharp, we want Speed, we want Fast. I prepped this on my planning here. Heal? Nope. It's not when healed. We don't care about the when healed. It's really just the Fast and Sharp. So, I will leave it, check for the comments, see if I have anything added for items, but really it's just Sharp charges, fast at start of turn, and plus speed, because we just want Gustav to be going first every time. Enough of that, let's go to Act 4. So, in Act 4, we're going to talk about all of the reasons you want to bring a Bard. So, if I say stanza and all, these are all of the best cards in the game, give or take. They are very hard to cast, they require stanza 2 or 3, and they have massive effects. Right now, my songs of choice are Conquest and Serenade, because in Act 4 you need to prep for the Archon, and I think the best way to prepare for the Archon is Healing Serenade, and we'll discuss a play pattern to cast this multiple times in a turn. But the idea is you want to cast this once or twice a turn to keep your team nice and clean from the debuffs that is the Archon fight. And it's also a long drawn out fight. It gives us a heal spell that we haven't really been using much before, because like I said, nothing's really had the heal on it, and it keeps that regen going for the team for the long fight. But of course, the best damage option here for me and this team specifically is Ballad of Conquest for the Sharp and the Bless stacks. And of course, I'm looking for the version. If you check here, you got to read the fine print. This one says requires stanza 2. This one says requires stanza 3. So you need the ones, I prefer the ones that say 2 so that you can cast them quicker or sooner and more often. Ballad of Evasion is fantastic. I recommend this, again, the stanza 2 version. Gives Inspire to the team and Buffer. This would be the big reason to pick up that Buffer talent and perk that I don't have. This, I guess it only has 1 buffer on this version. It has 3 on this version by default. So that 1 perk, if you're going this direction, goes a long way. Eternal Lullaby is a mid to late game option. You could be picking this up in Act 2 because it's rare. This is a great, if Gustav is guaranteed going first, you can then guarantee slowing the entire enemy team. It is basically the only thing you do for the turn because it costs 5 energy. So if you're running this, you have to be running an Adrenaline of one variety or the other. And that's the only thing you're really going to be doing, give or take, unless you got a lot of these 0 cost chance and a very efficient draw pattern. Because these Vigilances do cost 1 energy, so trying to fit a Lullaby and 2 Vigilances is kind of rough. It can be done, and this is still a very valuable and playable card. Healing Serenade we're playing, and Vitalizing Serenade we're already playing as well. So, yeah. It's really just Ballad of Conquest, Healing Serenade, and Ballad of Evasion that are the most common ones, and then Eternal Lullaby is a good fit-in depending on your team comp. And how many Corruptors you're taking and how important it is to get the enemy team slowed down. I don't need it in this team comp because I've got double Warriors, so they are almost guaranteed to draw their Howls and slow down the enemy. This Adrenaline should be the yellow one in pre-Act 4, and actually even in Act 4 I would recommend running the, yellow one. It is the yellow one. It should be the blue one for the double energy right away. You only need to flip it to the yellow at the Archon fight. That's why I have it here on this build, is to remind me to talk about it, not because it's the right option. So here in Act 4, this should be this, and then once you get to the end of up to that top floor, switch it to the yellow one for the Archon fight if you expect to go 3 or 4 rounds. Or just in general, if your fights are going long enough, this is useful. Let's go talk about that combat. I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm a little off kilter because, yeah. I think this is the fight we want to look at. Items. I remember the item. We'll talk about it in the end. I'll leave a section for items part 2. So as you can see, Gustav is not going first. Gustav is slow. And that's because the person, like, he's only got this +1 speed. Heiner stole all of his speed stuff. So all of this should be on Gustav. I have a brass amulet, so not the necklace, but this cloak of speed. If it was on Gustav, he would have gone first. And then he'd be able to do all the speed manipulation. But I was able to get Heiner going fast enough that I no longer need to speed him up anymore. As you can see, although that one guy went before me, my whole team's going before the rest of them, and so I'm sitting pretty. It also gives Gustav something to do if I feel the need to do so. Where am I at? So I got to trace myself. I don't need to speed up my team because I'm going fast enough. Otherwise, I'd keep this quickness. This says stanza 2, so I don't want it this turn. I want to draw it next turn. Same thing here, stanza 2. Do I need to heal my team? We're not looking that hurt. So I could... and I have 2 draws in the setup, so I'll keep it. I should be able to make my decision later. Because 2 draws and a setup will draw this, this, and that 9th card. Because I'm looking down here, 9th card that is not showing. So this will work just fine. So, whoops, confirm. So draw, and setup. Oh, I can't count. Oh, because there's a boon in there. Ha, we're good. So then I see what I don't need. I don't need a deflect. I don't need an adrenaline because I can cast all of this just fine. And I want to cast all of it. So I can either use this now or wait a little. So I'm actually going to wait a little. Encore, if I think the fight's going to go to second turn, I'll use this at the end of the turn for this stuff. So these two, you decide whether you want to use it this turn or next turn, and you decide whether to cast it. Like, I can either trigger them now or put them up this turn for next turn to trigger. So we'll actually set them up for next turn. So we're just going to sharp up Andrin here a bit. I could have used them now, but they're prepped for next turn. Heiner's about to do some laser beaming. The laser beams. If you want to see explanations of these other people's turns, go watch their videos, please. I will not talk too much about it today. But I could set up to wombo combo and kill all these this turn. I'm going to choose not to intentionally so that we can see Gustav's turn 2, because that is a nice thing to look for here. That's enough. I don't care to do anything more. Alright. Andrin's going to kill off 1 or 2 of these, and then we'll see what turn 2 looks like. Does Andrin have a theme song? What's Andrin's theme song? What's Gustav's theme song? I know it's Gustav's theme song. It's "Sing us a song, you're the frogman. Sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for a melody." Let's leave the Lancer. He does more damage, right? And I could kill off more people, but I don't. And or I could have just doubled my AoEs and just AoE'd all this down and killed them all. But here's Gustav. Okay, so everyone got hurt a bit. We're not feeling too pretty, but I have a cool little play pattern here that is fantastic. So what do I want to cast twice? So Healing Serenade, I wouldn't mind casting that once. Do I need to cast it twice? Probably not. So I'm going to do Ballad of Conquest. Duplicated it. Then I'm going to draw. And look, I have another Ballad of Conquest. Oh, I can't cast it? Oh, wait. Yes, I can with Adrenaline. And that's the kind of play pattern you'll get into in long fights or the Archon fight, is you'll set yourself up to probably have that Adrenaline not vanish if you're going into long fights, or to make it so I can cast multiple. So, I mean, I have this Ballad of Conquest. I could Healing Serenade, or I could Conquest again. And you can tell this melodic rhythm heals us up enough that, honestly, let's just go Conquest in a little more. And I could skip these turns and just kill these guys. But as you can see, I wish I'd go back to that. I don't have enough cards to fill my hand. So even with injuries added, I'm going to draw up to a full hand, and this will vanish too. I just have 1 or 2 songs that I like to play, a deflect or 2, depending on how many deflects you've run into. I was only able to craft a 1. So you'll draw your whole hand, and then you'll play one of the songs, draw it again, and play it again. And what allows us to play it multiple times is that item that I forgot to mention. So let's go look at the items. That's not items. This is items. The most important thing here to make that play pattern effective is these cards right here. Emerald Staff is guaranteed if you picked up the emerald from the... so, like, you get the emerald in the fire biome sitting on the chair, and that'll give you the staff once you come here to the blacksmith. So that's a semi-reliant way to get it, but it's not guaranteed to get that event. But you can see these say reduce the cost of a spell, and all of our songs are spells. So Dream Sphere will do just any card. Destiny, of course, is fantastic. But any of these reduced cost ones will make it so that on turn 2, because Dream Sphere triggers on turn 2, and that's when we want to play that super powerful song 2 or 3 times. And so these 3 cards really help enable that play pattern. There's also the musical instruments here, the flutes and cloud songs and harps of the world. The nice thing about the golden harp is that it's a permanent reduction. So of all of them, it's probably better to do the harp if you're going in a long fight. I think the Emerald Staff or the Cloud Song are fantastic. Or the Destiny are fantastic normally. Well, I gotta read the fine print here. Yeah, we're good. Sorry. I just saw the corrupted Destiny and it threw me off guard. The Golden Harp is good in the long run because it's a permanent reduction, and so eventually that Song of Conquest or that Song of Serenity will get down to these bad boys. They'll get down to 1 or 0 cost, and so I can play it, draw it, play it, draw it, and it's just it's a very powerful play pattern to play these 2 or 3 times at once. And or of course there's Ballad of Conquest. I mean Ballad of Evasion, but Ballad of Evasion will vanish in all versions of it. So these are the 2 that I normally rely on for this team comp for that reason. Yeah. I think that covers about everything. Resign. What I miss? Oh, so Gustav. We'll talk about unlocks and team synergy. So to unlock Gustav, you have to go... Did I go to the right one here? No. So in the green biome... This is not the green biome. In the green biome, there is a island in the middle, and I really wish I had the map pulled up here. That you have to path to. You have to find a way to get a boat. You're going to have to look up ways to get that boat or just kind of experiment. But you got to go down south out of the green town, pick up a boat, go to the island in the middle, meet up Gustav, and then Gustav will send you to the blue biome to pick up his loot. So you got to go green biome first, blue biome second to unlock Gustav. And then, of course, just follow the quest line as needed. And then in Team Synergy, let's talk about Team Synergy. You may have noticed that Sharp is the most important thing about Gustav. So you want Gustav to be playing, or at least currently the most efficient and powerful thing about Gustav. That may change in the future, but really, Sharp is just a powerful thing right now. And Andrin, or Grookly, or Sylvie all pair superbly with Gustav for that reason. You can, of course, play Gustav as a solo healer. You'll just cut the Sharp cards. As a healer without a physical DPS. But you'll have to cut the Sharp cards and plan differently than what I've given you here. Like I said, just cut all the Sharp stuff out of it. But that's where he pairs well with. He also can speed up 1 or 2 people fairly well. Actually, the strongest team right now, the reason it's so strong, this team right here, is that these are all fast characters. And if you give Gustav any sort of speed increase, he can even get past Montes and Hydras. So you can kill a Hydra on turn 1, which is normally impossible because the Hydra goes invulnerable before you. So Gustav it's all about speed and Sharp. So any of these physical DPSs are probably the best to pair with it. Outside of that, I can't think of any other synergies. You want all these people down here are slow and don't use Sharp. So these are all the people that Gustav does not hang out with. Frog-like physical damage, warriors and scouts. And yeah, that's all for synergies. I may have rushed this one a little, but thank you for sticking with me. If you liked what you saw, please let me know by comments, feedback, yays, nays, I don't know. The more I know what you liked, the more I can include it in future ones. The more I know you didn't like, the more I can disclude it in future ones. You know what I mean? So, yeah. That's it, and I will catch you later. Peace.